Hi, it's Lisa from Wee Woolly Wonderfuls, and in this final video making the rubber ducky ring, we're going to be making the beak, adding the strands to the top and adding the eyes and sewing it together. So we're going to start with the little bag that comes in your kit, which has the orange wool especially for the beak. The grey you can see is for the toes on the hippo, and then we have black for the eyes, so we'll just get everything out ready. You've normally got plenty of this. You can do a couple if you need be. It's just in case you go wrong. It's handy to have a little bit extra. So the first instruction, let's have a look. For our rubber ring beak is make 1 in orange, magic circle 6 double crochet stitches, then do 2 double crochets and an increase twice. And then slip stitch, fasten off and leave 20 centimeters for sewing on later and stuff the beak. So that should only take us a minute to make. So we're going to start with a magic circle with 6 stitches. So slip not sew 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Now we're going to close our ring, and then our next instruction was 2 double crochet increase and then repeat that a second time. So we're going to go into our first stitch and do 1 double crochet, next stitch a second double crochet, and the third stitch we're going to do an increase, 2 double crochets into 1 stitch, and then we're going to repeat that. So double crochet, and then an increase into the final stitch, and it's still fastened onto that. Should have taken it all off first, shouldn't I? I'm going to do slip stitch and fasten off. So the next stitch we're just going to go into, grab the yarn and pull it through the other loop, and then we're going to leave a thread. You can see we've got plenty left. If we went wrong we could probably make another one. Then we're going to put the end through the loop to secure it. And what I'm going to do with the bit of wool, you can pull that a bit tighter if there's a hole. The one that we started with, we can cut that because it'll be inside the beak. Don't cut it very short because it could unravel, so I've left a little bit, but that'll be on the inside so you won't see it. And then when we sew it on, we'll pop a little dot of stuffing in. You'll only get a tiny bit in just to give it its shape. So I'm going to sew that onto here. So I'm going to put the magic circle at the top because that's a little bit neater. And we're sewing the beak about 1/3 of the way down, like so. It's always handy to have a few pins. So I'm just going to pin that in position to hold it. If I can find my pins. I usually get everything ready before I start, but there's often something I've forgotten. So let's have a look. Where's a couple more pins? I won't put too many in. Just enough to hold it in position. So we're going for a bit of a longer, thinner shape with this. Look. Now just have a look at it. Make sure you're happy with it. So it's about 1/3 of the way up. So it's going to look like that. Oh, yeah, that looks great. So we're going to pop the needle on the end. Sorry, thread it onto our needle. And I'm just going to neatly sew all of the way around. So what I tend to do is do a little stitch here. Don't do them too far away because then you'll have orange line stitches. So we're going to go down just right below where the beak is and do 1 stitch. And then on here we're just going to go up through there. Try and keep it as invisible as possible. And then I'm going to go down through the next stitch. And then I'm just going to catch stitch there below. You could do that in 2 parts if you wanted, or 1. Pull it tight, not too tight that it puckers, but just so that when you lift it there's no gap. So I'm going to go up back through there and down through the next one, because then the stitch will be hidden, and I'll show you that in 2 stages. So we've gone back through there and then do a little stitch here, but we're just trying to keep it underneath, just level with it, so we're not doing it too far away so it's not visible. A little stitch there and pull it. A little bit of stuffing popped out there, but So I'll just clip that off. You can just pop it back in with your needle. Right, and just keep an eye on it as we're sewing it on, just to make sure we're not going lopsided. So again, we're going to go up through that, through the chain, down through there. You can use any sewing technique you prefer, but this keeps the stitches pretty much invisible. Through there, and then up through there, and down. So I'm just going to go all the way around. If you want extra security, you can always go around twice. If you do come a little bit further away, look, there's a bit of gap there, so if I sew there, you can see that. I'm just going to go back down through that, where I came out, and then back up through there. And it helps make that stitch disappear, just so it keeps it nice and neat. That's that. And you can see him taking shape now. There, down through there, and we're pretty much back to the beginning. So we'll pull it a little bit tighter, not so it gathers, but just so it's firm. And then we'll check, look, you can see if you pull it really tight, but it's pretty well sewn on there. So there we go. There's a little beak. So to finish off, we're going to go down where we came up and then come up further away, but try to come up through a gap, not through the middle of a stitch, and then back down the same hole. Back through there. We do that a couple of times. Put it tight, cut it so it disappears inside. Make sure you take your pins out. I always count the pins when I put them in, and then count them when I take them out. That way we know we haven't lost any that have vanished inside and might be sharp later for anyone picking it up. Our next stage is just to add the eyes. So I'm going to do that with a little bit of thread. So I'm just going to cut a little bit from the black yarn that's with the kit. We're going to thread our needle, and his eyes sit right on top of the beak. I'm going to thread the needle and then pop a knot in the other end. So I'm just going to do a double knot. And then I'm going to cut it just after the knot. It's the black thread sometimes, even if it's underneath inside, occasionally you can see a little bit of black thread underneath through it. So what I'm going to do is start a little bit away, but I'm going to go in through a hole. Make sure it's a hole. If you're going through the middle of a stitch, your knot will be on the outside and visible, which is no good. So we're going to go through a hole, and then we're going to come out right at the top of the beak. Gives them quite a different expression where they do the eyes close together, further apart, and then here. So we're going to do it about 1.5 stitches, 2 stitches high. It always ends up being a little bit smaller than what you think it's going to be. So we're just going to do 2 stitches there. We're going to do another one right on top, in through the same hole and out through the same hole again. There we go. And then I'm just going to go back into the same hole and come out. Have a look at it and try and get them as even as you can. So that's about the same distance from the sides there. So we're keeping them pretty even. Makes them neater. Otherwise they can look a little bit cross-eyed, but it's great fun to try different eyes. And quite often you'll find you might have to do the eyes a couple of times before you're happy with them. It's quite common. I do that all the time. It's better to get them how you're happy with them. Otherwise you'll be forever looking at them and thinking, that's not quite right. So that I think maybe needs another little bit. So I'm going to go in there, and then I'm going to come out somewhere else again, through a gap, down, and especially with the black, really careful because it'll be very visible. Pull it tight, there we go. There we go. I've got a little bit of, tiny bit of yellow thread there. I'm just going to clip that off. Make it neater. There we go. Look at him. You can even fiddle with the eye a bit to make it a little bit wider or slimmer, just so they're even. Look at him. He's great. Now I'm going to use this thread to sew on to our rubber ring. So let me grab my needle again. All right. There it it's I was going to thread the needle. It's a bit fluffy. I think we're probably best off cutting that off. When it goes a bit fluffy like that, it's impossible to thread it. So there we go. Now we're going to look for the ring that we made earlier. It's still on Henry. Here it is. So I'm going to keep the bit we sewed together. We sewed the ends together isn't as neat, so I'm going to keep that under his arm pretty much. So we're going to have that as the front of the ring, and we're going to sew it a bit like that. So the ducky head's on the top. Now you can pop pins in this if you want to, but it's quite awkward to keep it held on. It's just a matter of popping a few pins in just till you get going, and then keep looking at it to make sure it seems even. So I'm just going to pop a couple of pins in. So let's check that we're pleased with that. Yeah, that's great. So again, we're going to do the 1 stitch on the ring, just underneath, just like we did with the head, followed by another stitch on the little ducky head, and then a stitch on the ring, followed by a stitch on the ducky head. So we're just doing 1 horizontal stitch on the ring, followed by 1 horizontal stitch on the head, but just keeping them quite close to where we're working, and then the stitches will be pretty much out of the way. Right, I'll pull that tight, and I'm going to do another stitch here, and then another stitch there, it's about 1 stitch wide, and then pull together a little bit. I do 2 or 3 stitches and then gently pull it, just to pull the 2 sides together, and then you can always pull them apart like that to see if it seems like it's firm enough. So 1 on there and 1 on the ducky head. So we're all the way around now. If you think it doesn't feel secure enough, you can always go around again. Might just do an extra few stitches. It looks a little bit high that side. Take your pins out and then you can see a bit better where you are. Yeah, that looks like it needs an extra couple of stitches at that side just to make it look like its head's on nice and securely. So we'll just add an extra couple. Keep going until you're happy with it. Right, pull it tight. That's a bit more secure. There we go. Look at that. Almost done. And then what we're going to do is we can use the end of this to add the threads onto his head. The first one, we're going to go back in where we came out. So right up through the centre of the head. Ooh, might be like a little bit of a push. Come out. And then we're just going to cut that. Always cut it a bit longer than you want your threads to be, because then we can always trim it shorter. Now I need another strand because I want to add some more fluffy bits to the top of his head. You can add as much or as little as you want. I find a couple of threads is plenty. So we're going to do it double length like that, so the ends meet. And then all I'm going to do is go into the top of his head, move that one out of the way, and right on the top where the magic circle is. Anywhere along here is fine. Oops, I'll go there. Any one of those stitches, pull it through. Leave a little bit of a length like that, a bit longer than say you want it. And I'm going to do another loop here like that. And then I'm going to put my needle through the centre, so we're knotting it in effect. Like so. So I'll pop that through both the loops and then pull it tight. So it's just to give us a bit of security so it doesn't unravel. I'm going to cut that one. And then the way we make it fluffy, you can see from our other rubber ducky ring, it's a bit fluffy look. It's quite sharp, but you can have it a bit longer if you want. The way we do that is we use the back of our needle, the blunt end, and then just split the thread. So we're going to go into the thread and just split it. If these are really long, cut them to a bit longer length, because otherwise you'll be splitting lots and lots of thread. a little bit long, but that's alright. Don't worry if it all goes. It's supposed to go a bit fluffy. You can make it as fluffy as you want. You can just keep going back in and splitting it. Look at that. Well, he's got a good head of hair, this one. Split it, try and get it right from the bottom to give it this nice fluffy effect. As much as you want. And then what we're going to do is trim that knee. So we'll just hold it up, give it a trim. So he's got quite long hair. See if we're happy with him. Do we like it long? It's a bit too long. I think I want it a bit shorter. So I'm going to trim it off again. You do it how you like him. You could even give him different coloured hair if you wanted. I posted him on one of our pages, Facebook page the other day. I did some orange on, that looked great. Oh, we've got a fantastic Facebook page. Just go onto Facebook and type in Wee Woolly Wonderful's community of woolly friends, and we'll come up and just request to join. And all the group is full of people who like making our patterns, so you can see what other people are making. You can see some great different colour variations. Well, often if we've got any special offers, new kits coming out, or video tutorials, we'll post things on there. And we have a lot of crochet alongs, so you can join in and make things together. And then you can ask questions if you get stuck. It's all about just helping each other if you get stuck with anything and sharing what we've made. It's great fun seeing them all. Right, so there you go. Rubber ducky ring is complete. We just need to put it on Henry now. Come here, Henry. He's been itching to go in the pool. It's really sunny out there, but I've said he can't go in until he's got his rubber ducky ring. So he's been sat there pestering me. There we go. All finished. So doesn't Henry look good? Trying to show you him. Camera angle, you can't see him very well. There we go. Hi, Henry. Are you pleased with your rubber ring? Yes. Right, he's off to go in the pool. And we shall see you another time. Thanks for watching.